Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are we doing? Hey, Jim, how are you? Nice to virtually.
Hi, how are you?
Doing fantastic. We'll kick this off in just a moment, but we'll talk about strategies. And I just came off of a regional call for the state of Colorado, and we actually talked directly about these strategies. So there's some good stuff that that came out of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Oops, just got my glasses. Write some of this down.
Yeah. So how's everyone doing? How are you? How are your families?
Doing good. We're all, I think, getting a little stir crazy, but other than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand that. It's what's interesting is this is a time where we can really dive into the models and systems and really start to get some traction there. So then when this does open up, which it will, what do we want our businesses to look like? And I think that's something that will create a ton of opportunity within that. So yes. Awesome. So we got one more minute. What would be something that out of, this call right here, and we'll have more jump on as the call gets going, what would be one thing that you'd like to take away from the call? So we got about 30 minutes on this one.
I guess just kind of laying out a strategy for what we're going to be expecting with the changing market.
Sure.
I just don't know what's going to be out there. I mean, like I was talking to you earlier. I mean, are we going to be doing a lot more listings because people are wanting to get out of their house? Are there still enough people where that's going to create a stronger buyer's market? I don't know, kind of maybe lay out some, what do you think on that?
Sure, absolutely. All right, so expectations of
There you go.
Of the market, right? Like
Mhm.
what is all this going to do?
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. How about some more? And I see you on video. I can't read your first name there. I try to think here. Is it Shelly? Sherry. Ah, Sherry. There you are. So Sherry, what do you think? What is something you're looking to pull out of this? Sorry, mic not working. No problem. Not an issue. Like strategies. Awesome. Well, it's 2:31 and our appointment's at 2:30, so let's get started. So when a lot of this is around masterminds and what we can do, right? So the number one thing right now, more than anything, and this goes from an agent who's brand new to an agent who is running a very, very successful team, are care calls. The number one thing right now is care calls. Reaching out to our database and saying, what can we do to help? And when they say nothing, then awesome. Who in your neighborhood, who in your family, who in your circle can we do something for to help? Welcome, Jake. And so it's really starting with those care calls first. What do you think some scripts could be around that? If you're going to call your database, what would you say?
Okay, show you.
Yeah, Sherry, absolutely. Ask how they're doing. Amen. Right? We don't have to complicate this. That's the beautiful thing about this. Right now, we're all on absolute even playing grounds. We talked about this at the team meeting, and it's just kind of a thought. The relationships that you build, reinforce, and engage in now can become lifelong relationships. This is no longer just calling a lead. It's, what can we do to strengthen those bonds, strengthen those relationships? The key piece around that is whomever we're not calling, someone else is calling. So are we okay with that? We talked a little bit earlier today. We had a fantastic call, and I have all kinds of fun notes here. A question could be, if you were to do a presidential address to your database, to your family, to your friends, to your past clients, what would that look like if you were to reach out to them? What could be a script that you could use, or just script, or just a conversation, right? Addressing what's going on now, where our business is at, and addressing many fears that might be out there. So I know, Sherry, you're on typing, which is awesome. And Jim, what would you say if you were going to do a presidential address, sounding a little jumbled in my words, presidential address to our database, what would that look like?
Well, I'd probably say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. I got a script right in front of me, so I'm cheating here. But anyway, I already had this planned out because I was sending it to my database. With the Colorado's current stay-at-home order, Governor Polis has recognized the real estate as a critical business. I am still available to help you with your home search. This is when we were able to still do the home searches. So we can do the video tours at this point in time. We can do it virtually. But what can I do to assist you throughout your search right now? And do you know of anyone else, basically, that would also need my assistance at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe even tie in, what's going on in the economy, what's going on nationally versus this. We have kind of a thing we passed to talk, the leadership all talks about, and that is, do not spend more than 30 minutes on the news every day. Not more than 30 minutes. Don't even do 30 minutes. Goodness gracious. I
can't watch it anymore.
Don't do that. Right? What do you think about that, Jake?
It is true. It is true.
Yeah, it's so true. So why is that? Silly question, and why? And I'm asking this because these are conversations we can have with our database, right? So why only 30 minutes or max?
Because I think you're going to get oversaturated and you're going to have too much doom and gloom, where they're focusing mostly on what's going wrong as opposed to what's going right in the world right now, in the business.
Yeah. It's the mindset, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sherry, what do you think about that? Exactly, doom and gloom, because yep, 100%. So the key things around this, when we're talking about successful strategies in a changing market, what are others doing that either we're making a decision not to do, either it's because we're uncomfortable, or is it because we're not able to actually do that? So for example, we might see those who do virtual open houses. What does that look like, right? And diving into that a little bit, if I cannot go into the house, if I have a listing or I have, let's say, some buyers that are interested in homes and I cannot go into the house, what would be some ways where I can use the technology in order to present this to buyers and sellers? Gosh, both of them, right? So what do you think around that? Like, if you're looking at strategies as around a virtual open house, what does that start to look like?
Well, obviously we're have to do our virtual tours, and we're gonna have to be their nose also, because one thing that's the biggest problem with virtual tours or video tours, they can't smell the cat pee when you walk in the door. You know what I'm getting at. So we have to be blatantly honest what we're seeing, what we're smelling, and all that. So that's where I think it was going to be a little more in depth on the video tour.
So if I get everyone on the call, grab a piece of paper, flip the piece of paper to where it's horizontal, and then right behind me here, we're going to do 3 different columns. We did this exercise in team meeting, and it was really powerful. And I know Jake Ginger out there loves this exercise. So when we look at column number 1, right? So go ahead and make it just nice and easy, right? Like boom, 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 just like that, right? So column number 1 on the far right side is everything I cannot control. I have no control over it, right? Could we have influence on the Attorney General's decision? We could have influence, but we cannot control it. We cannot control the governor, right? We cannot control what goes on in New York City or New Orleans or anywhere else around us. We can't, being very real, we cannot even control what goes on in Denver. And to a point, we can control what goes on in our home. We can control our business, right? So the far right side is going to be what I cannot control. You know, I put on here news, being informed, not obsessed, right? And there's plenty of those who are out there. All you got to do is jump on Facebook and you'll see them.
Oh, I'm on my 18th Zoom call today.
Yeah, there you go. Jake's on his 18th Zoom call. So in the center column here, what can I control but it's not helpful? What do you think an example of that would be? Something I could control but it's not helpful.
Right now, so I can control not leaving the house, but that's not helpful as far as my business.
Right. Okay, so you can control leaving your house, but it may not be helpful. Shirley, what do you think? Or Sherry? All right, Jake, we'll see ya. Blanking. Okay. Like good things are, yeah, very good question. So, and you're right. Am I talking about good things or bad things, right? It could go either way. If it's not helpful though, it's not going to be positive. So for example, we start with mindset first, because if our mind is not right, if we're not right internally, it's going to be very difficult to be able to go make that first call. That's a care call where we're asking about someone else, how they're doing, right? And being authentic around that. So for example, I may be able to control my mindset. I can control that. What may not be helpful is what if I'm watching the news too much? What if I'm doing affirmations that are negative? They're not positive, right? I'm stuck at home, can't get anything done, right? It's those stuck and can't and negative words. I'm going to try to do something, but I'm not going to commit. I'll try. I can control that, right? So if we're looking down this list as we, as we continue, the next column over is what can we control? So we can control our mindset. We can control our models and systems and what we're learning and how we can run on this. We can control making a plan and a business plan around what would this look like what do we want this to look like at the end? Because there will be an end, and there will. The key is going to be, exactly, we're looking forward to the future. So now if you were to take your business today and take your business at the end of this, and how we want our business, our life, our family life, personal business, all those pieces to go, what do we really want it to look like? Because if we have the end in mind, we can start making activities going all the way back to today. Say, okay, how does what I'm doing today going to impact positively to hit that goal in whatever time frame that looks like? So those are some things we can control. We can control expenses to a point. Are we remargining expenses? A huge conversation going on right now is around Keller Mortgage and Keller Covered, which is a home insurance platform. The reason it's going around Keller Mortgage right now, which is really powerful for the clients, it's zero cost. It's no cost. So now here's what's interesting. We're seeing the rates right now running around 3.5%, which in my world is extremely low. And there is talk about them actually being pushed down lower. So are we calling buyers to let them know, hey, Mr. Buyer, are you ready and able to buy today in this market? Because you could lock in an amazing interest rate Because what we do know is that anytime the market goes down very quickly, it will bounce back up very quickly. The key is, how are we positioned, right? And that's one of the strategies that top agents and top teams are looking at and using is, what is our positions around this? How do we want this to look? So remargining expenses, and I'll send you all the links for that, Jim, so you have it. And Sherry, is for you as well. Do you have the Keller Mortgage and Keller Covered and all that good stuff? Okay, cool. So we'll get that out, and Jim, I'll make sure you have it as well.
Okay.
Because that's a really powerful way. Here's what's happening. Because of the layoffs that are going on, not just in Denver, but around the country, right? I mean, just being totally real. Keller Mortgage, they're actually not going into Keller Mortgage to refinance their rate. What they're doing is getting a 2-month buffer on their payment. So the payment stays almost the same, but now they have a 2-month buffer. So it's really powerful.
That's a great way of looking at it. I didn't even think about that. That's a great way of, yeah.
And think about how much value that is. You know, Jim, if I'm to call you and your family and say, hey, Jim, how are you guys doing? Really care about you. I know this is a crazy time. I just wanted to reach out. That's my first thing, right? Depending on how that conversation goes, it could go to the point of, yeah, I don't know, I'm stressing out. Like, I'm at home, I'm stressing out. You know, we were laid off, or whatever that looks like. And then now I have an opportunity to create a solution. And it's up to you to take the solution or not, but at least you're looking at me as a resource now, more than anything else. So, and that's the whole idea here, is we want to be the very center of that resource. So if someone's looking at to get their fence painted, I want them calling me. If they're getting their roof done, I want them calling me. If they're looking for a hairdresser because they spent 4 weeks in quarantine, I want them calling me, right? Like, my intention is to be the center. And once that happens, then I can call those other companies. Here's a little tip. This is what's going on, is I can call those other companies and say, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Hairdresser who runs a small business. This is where small business helps out small business, because they're the ones getting hit right now, right? So if I call them and I say, hey, you know what? I have a quick question for you. Are you awesome at your job? Right? There's another way of saying it, which is a little bit negative. I don't think I'd go that route. So, I mean, are they awesome? Are you guys amazing? Right? Why do you ask? Well, because I have my good friend of mine who needs to get his hair cut. He reached out to me, and before I stamp my name on this referral, I want to check in on it. Right? Awesome. I'll tell you what, here's the contact information. We'll get those things going. Do me a favor. I may have more clientele coming your way, right? Now I'm really giving a value piece. The second piece to that is, before I hang up that phone, is, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Small Business, I know these are crazy times right now, and you have some new challenges you didn't have even weeks ago. So is there anything I can do for you? Right? Now I'm starting to create a train, or a trail, right? Start with the client. Now I'm going to the business. Maybe that small business does need something. We really need X. Okay, awesome. Let me make some calls. See what I'm doing? I'm starting to build out a database. Just by one care call, I can go all the way down a line. And the coolest thing about that is that once I'm able to do that, think of this side of it. Right? If I am able to touch base, or when I'm able to touch base with a landscaper and I give them some value and potentially some business, what does my world look like when I get into their database?
And when somebody approaches them looking for a realtor, they're going to refer you, yes.
All day long. So we actually had, up in Anchorage, I had a landscaper that, yeah, exactly. We help each other, 1,000%. We had a landscaper that I could literally count on Shane doing 6 to 7 deals minimum, not referrals, but closings every year, and they're a landscaper. They did, in the wintertime, it was snow removal. They did both commercial projects and residential. In the summertime, they knew that people were moving. I gave them 2 little scripts to use, right? Awesome. Why'd you give me a call today? I'm really excited for you. You know, what's going on? two little scripts, right? Like, oh, we want to redo our landscaping to put in a flower bed. Oh, fantastic. Why are you doing that? Well, we're thinking about selling. Really? Now I'm not even involved, except I'm over here, right? And it all started from that care call in the beginning. So it's not necessarily working longer, right? We're all dealing with different opportunities with the length of time we're able to put into a day. It may be, though, being more efficient. And that's one of the things that can really kick off. So let's see here. So that would be another way of doing that. Small businesses helping out small businesses. Here's a cool idea. This is something that's happening now too. Color book contest. Seems really silly, except guess what? We became teachers overnight. And I don't know about you all, but this is all new ground for me. I can do business strategies all day long. Teaching my 10-year-old, that's a different game, right? So now if I always do a color book, some type of color book contest, and you can play with different designs. Maybe you come up with a logo for your business and you send it out to your database and you say, hey guys, school project, which one of you could come up with the coolest colors ever, and then we can have a contest around it, and the winner wins X, right? It doesn't need to be a monetary prize. It doesn't even need to be a big prize, but it's something to trigger them. Here's the other thing. They're coloring at home, right? So what happens? That little coloring logo goes up on that refrigerator, doesn't it? Like if we really start thinking about the kids, that's what happens. I mean, as parents, that's what we do. We put it on the refrigerator so everyone sees. Awesome. Wouldn't it be cool that we could have a logo that was customized for our own business on our client's refrigerator? Just by playing off of what's going on, right? A lot of this is activities. We as parents know that if the kids have activities, we can work.
Mhm.
And what happens if they don't? The opposite. So, right. So having those activities. Here's another one. If you're tying into small businesses, and this is another strategy, and I'll give you one more before we chat about this. What about doing Facebook interviews? Who's the best chef that I know that's stuck at home right now that could help me come up with incredible recipes for a breakfast, lunch, or dinner from home using what I have, and maybe even come up with freezer options, right? Like stuff like this, and what's happening, I'm highlighting that business so that when we do go back, which we will, what's gonna happen? We remember those who take care of each other, take care of us, and we take care of them. Everyone else disappears, right? So this could be another opportunity. So think of different Facebook interviews. Maybe it's a personal trainer. How do you work out from home and you don't have any weights, you don't have a gym, all those pieces, right? So I'm gonna call up my personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness, I don't know, something like that, and say, hey, or maybe even better, I'm gonna reach out to my database. This would be the smart thing. It's not from me, it's from my database. Hey guys, who's the best at-home personal trainer that you know? Then I'm able to reach through them, right? Here's another one too, small business stimulus. So you could do a small business stimulus that has something to do with the deal of the day, the deal of the week, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. Again, what am I doing? I'm pouring into small businesses because we will take care of each other. The question becomes, can what you do less create more, right? What we know for strategies that are successful in a changing market is the very top realtors that are out there, whether they're individuals, teams, they become to innovate things. They don't say, I can't do that. They say, how can I do that, right? It's got to start with the mindset. Then from the mindset, it's going to go into what's the plan, right? Writing it down is key because then it creates that, the learning, whether we're kinetic, visual, or audio. It puts it on paper. So now it becomes real. That's why we say business plans go on paper. So then around that is, then how do I become more efficient? A conversation that's happened. I like what's relevant today. Yeah, absolutely. A conversation that's going on right now is not necessarily, it's doubling down on lead generation. I have a different take on it. I don't think it's going to 4 hours of lead generation a day, right? If we're not doing 2 hours consistently, I don't think it's very fair to say, oh, we're going to do 6 hours now. What I do think is it's an efficiency conversation. So if I'm going to do lead generation for an hour, is my list ready? Who am I going to call? Do I have a system and a process around this? And most important around that piece, who's holding me accountable to it? Because if we're holding ourselves accountable or our spouses are holding us accountable, it doesn't necessarily always work, right? It works for a couple days, but it doesn't create a habit. And a habit's created after 66 days. What's interesting is a habit is broken within 10 days. So you work all that time to hit 66, and then it's broken within 10. So the key around that is who in our world is holding us accountable. So, Jim is for, and we'll talk about that for the next couple minutes. We got 7 minutes left. So let's spend 2 minutes on that. Who is holding you accountable? So Jim, how about for you, my friend? Who is holding you accountable and who could be holding you accountable?
Obviously, I'm holding myself accountable.
Sure. Okay.
But I mean, that's what it is. It's self accountability, and well, obligations are holding me accountable. I mean, we all have a mortgage, we have bills and all that, so that's holding me accountable. If I don't make the money, I'm not going to be able to live my lifestyle.
Right. Absolutely. Sherry, how about for you? Friends, family, self. Yeah. So what would this look like? Here's a question. We all have goals and aspirations, right? And the goals are immovable. Once you put down a goal and you really mean that goal, it's immovable. It's not a movable object anymore. The activities are, right? The activities are movable. The activities can be flexed or changed depending on their efficiency. So what would this look like in your business if you had another agent or let's say a team or a coach that could hold you accountable on where you would like your business to go? Where would you like it to grow? When we were in production in the recession 10 years ago, we more than doubled the business in 18 months while I had very good friends of mine go out of the business. And they were running incredible businesses, but they weren't able to pivot and move. So instead they kept throwing more money at it. And what happened? If they're throwing it out, but nothing's coming in, it's either a quick death or a slow death, but it's a death. So what I was told by my coach 10 years ago, I had a goal of being at, it was 18 million was the number, and it's 275 price point, right? So a little bit of volume. So what my coach said, he said, well, who's in your circle? And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, who's in your circle? Who are the 5 people that are influencing your life, business and personal, right? Our spouse, they're in our circle. And I'm not saying, break up with a spouse or anything like that, right? They're in our circle. But when we get really strategic about this, and this is where my coach was going, he said, who is in your circle that's doing at least 36 million, at least? And I said, well, why, Rick? That doesn't make any sense. My goal is 18. He said, because when you adopt the models and the systems of someone doing at least double the amount of business on what your goal is, you will naturally get there. But if you focused on, if I was to surround myself, I'm going to 18 million, let's say, and I surround myself with $5 to $10 million producers, no matter if they're the greatest people in the world, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about specifically the models and systems. They're still figuring it out. So what happens with mine? It's very difficult to hit a goal if I don't have a roadmap. So for each of our businesses, really take a look into it. What's our goal for 2020 and who do we need to bring into our world that could help us get the models and systems down? Because that's what the key is. It's not, we make the mistake as agents on focusing on the goal, just like I talked about. Simon Sinek wrote a book called The Infinite Game, and it's an incredible book. There's another book that was written by James Clear called Atomic Habits. Now, check this out. Atomic Habits, and I'll tie this in to here real quick. Atomic Habits talks about basically the compound effect. And if you were to make a 1% change, positive change in business and or personal, 1% per week for a year, for 52 weeks, you'd have a 52% increase in business just based on those small activities, because the activities start to compound and breed themselves out. Now you have a completely different business within 12 months than you had by focusing on the smallest amount. The challenge most agents make is we focus on 10, 20 different things, right? And what does it do? It takes us down all over the place, right? And we think that because of that craziness that we're busy. The reality is it's chaos. So if you can narrow that down to one simple thing, right? What could we do this week that could make a dramatic impact in your business? Just one thing, right? Maybe it's running with a coloring contest. Maybe it's doing small business. Maybe it's just, really just diving in and organizing our database and plugging it into Command and letting that run. But there's so many different opportunities that are in front of us. The key is focus on only one at a time. What are your thoughts around that?
When you're talking about that 1%, I just got to tell you, I told you before I was a manager for King. So there's many things I want to be able to reflect on. And there was a whole seminar we did about 211 to 212. What's the difference between 211 and 212?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you know this one?
No, I don't. I'm looking forward to it.
211 degrees, you have very hot water. At 212 degrees, you have boiling water. At that point, at 200, that 1 degree changed the world. That's when we were able to harness steam and the Industrial Revolution happened. Just 1 degree, hot water or boiling water. So
I love that. I love that. I couldn't agree more, and I absolutely love that. I got some great, just the visuals on the steam coming out of the engines and all that stuff, right? 1 degree. Love it.
So just a little fodder.
That is a good one. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what would be some ahas that you had? We have just another minute left here. So what would be an aha that you've had over the last 30 minutes? And a takeaway, something you can, here's my tie-in, something you can implement this week.
Well, I was already starting to pull over my database, so I was organizing that. Now I just need to learn the Keller Williams way of
Awesome.
getting it into it. So that's what my takeaway is.
Awesome. Perfect. And we have a tech coordinator that can help you with that.
Okay.
Using my Facebook contacts who are in business. Let's see who are in business. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe even really being specific on that, right? If I could contact one business that could lead to 3 businesses, it's like, I had a personal experience. I had a listing and, after this happened, I was like, oh my gosh, why haven't I been saying this the whole time? But I was primarily doing listings, right, on my team. And I went in and I talked to a gentleman and I was competing against 6 different mega agents that were in my area. And his name's Mark Couples, and Mark is actually from Grand Rapids. I didn't know that until we started diving in and I started asking questions, right? And I said, Mark, you were talking about being an investor and all this other things. I'm just curious. Is this the only property that you need my services with, whether it's residential or commercial, or do you have more properties? And literally without missing a beat, Mark looked at me and he goes, 1, you're hired. 2, I have 6 more properties. And he goes, you're the only one who asked that question. So every listing we go into, always ask that question, because we really don't know until we do. And the best part about that, what does that subconsciously tell the seller? I'm game on and ready to rock, right? Like we're not just 1, you got 10 properties, let's do this. Yeah, we're motivated. So take that one thing that we're gonna work on and really put a timeline around it. There's what we call SMART goals. They're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, right? So they're repeatable and they're timely. So it's specific, measurable, achievable, repeatable, and timely. What SMART goals can we really put together and take advantage of while we have this opportunity in front of us right now, which we really do. So With that, I appreciate the two of you being on the call. And Jim, I'll ask Amber to reach out to you here in just a little bit.
Okay.
If you have any questions, and truly, and Sherry, you have my cell phone number, don't you? I think you do. Okay, good. So if you have any questions, Jim, if you have any questions, if this conversation sparks some thought, let's get it rolling, because right now you have opportunity that is definitely starting. Two things are happening. One, in week 3, after all of this going on, you have those who are high achievers who are figuring out a way to get it done. On the second part of that, you have those who are gripped by fear and they're paralyzed. So the key is how do we harness that and use that to truly help? And that's our fiduciary duty on that. So awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys both being on the call.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Jim, I'll reach out to you in a little bit. Sherry, let me know how I can help. All right. Take care, guys.
Okay. See ya.
See ya.